Amidst the chaos of a wet and dramatic Spa-Francorchamps race, Lewis Hamilton once again captured the world's attention, not only with his performance on the track, but also with a shocking radio message to the Ferrari team, after an exhilarating race that saw him start from pit lane and finish in 7th place. Hamilton delivered an unexpected message to Ferrari engineer Riccardo Adami. What was the meaning behind this shocking message, and why did he target a figure from a rival team? Let's discuss it. I gave it everything. In a calm voice, Lewis Hamilton concluded the 2025 Belgian Grand Prix over the team radio. The words sounded ordinary. But for those who have followed Hamilton's journey through this challenging season, the sentence was more than just an expression of fatigue. It was an emotional statement, full of minunga, sign of a world champion who felt he was fighting alone on the surface. A 7th place finish after starting from the pit lane could be considered decent. But this wasn't about the standings. It was about how Hamilton achieved it and what he said afterward. Behind that simple message lay deep, long-held emotions. At Spa-Francorchamps, it finally broke the silence. Shortly after crossing the finish line, Hamilton softly said over the radio, "Sorry about this weekend, guys. You lost some points." His voice was flat and emotionless. There was no drama, but that was precisely the power of his message, cold yet sharp. He showed no disappointment. Toward the team, no anger and no excessive regret. But most poignantly, there was no confidence. All he could feel was distance, as if an invisible wall had begun to grow between him and the team that had once been so close. But that didn't mean he was giving up. Hamilton was still Hamilton. He overtook others with pure courage, pushing the limits of his tires and grip at every turn and taking risks that no other driver would take. He raced with the instincts and passion of a world champion. However, all of that seemed meaningless when the car failed to translate his vision on the track. Every maneuver felt like a battle, not only against his rivals, but also against an unwilling reality. Even when he managed to gain a few positions, it felt empty. There was no euphoria, no spark of hope. Hamilton wasn't just losing on the track, he was losing something far more fundamental: direction, clarity, and his emotional connection with the car and his team. When trust begins to wane, a mission is no longer intact. In racing, trust sometimes matters more than speed. Ferrari arrived in Belgium with high confidence. They brought a new floor mat, aerodynamic modifications, and the promise of more stable rear end grip. In the paddock, rumors were swirling. Ferrari would be competitive again, but that hope began to crumble from the first practice session. Hamilton's car felt unfamiliar. Oversteer occurred without warning. The balance fluctuated drastically with each lap. Most painfully of all, the garage offered no response. There was no honest debriefing, no refresher on direction. Even his engineer, Riccardo Adami, sounded as if he were reading from a flat, procedural, lifeless manual. In contrast, the atmosphere on Charles Leclerc's side was a stark contrast. Communication was lively. The strategy was executed on time. Most importantly, Leclerc drove with confidence. He knew his car would respond accurately to every input. Meanwhile, Hamilton had to second-guess his own machine. This wasn't about sabotage. Rather, it was about a system built around one person, not a new one. Leclerc has been a central figure at Ferrari for the past few seasons. The car, the setup, and even the internal communication have been designed to support his style. When someone like Hamilton enters that system, even as a 7-time world champion, he remains an outsider. It's the same car with the same upgrades, but the results are different. Leclerc seemed at one with the car. Hamilton seemed to struggle to conquer something not designed for him. In Formula One, where confidence is a key weapon, this is a powerful blow. Confidence from within the cockpit changes everything, from decisions during wheel-to-wheel combat to pit stop timing. Hamilton was hurt most by more than just the uncompetitive car setup. It was the silence within the team, a form of indifference that slowly eroded trust. When he needed direction, connection, and a sense of belonging, Ferrari offered only a false sense of calm. It wasn't a calming calm, but a piercing, cold, alienating silence on the radio. Riccardo Adami sounded like he was reading a memo rather than encouraging a world champion. His responses were flat and almost administrative. This was a stark contrast to the warm tone he often used with Leclerc, which was full of trust, mutual support, and confidence. At this level of competition, communication isn't just a formality. It's the foundation of victory. When communication weakens, trust cracks. When trust crumbles, drivers slowly but surely begin to drift apart. Usually, after a race, Hamilton is an unmissable figure. He stands with the crew for long periods, speaks at length with the media, and continues to encourage the team even when the results aren't as expected. He's fully present, with all his emotion and leadership intact. But this time, nothing. He just walked slowly away from the crowd, silent, cold, without a word. It wasn't just physical exhaustion. It was a warning, frozen in the air. It was a sign that a champion was starting to lose confidence. When Hamilton said, "That's all we had," he wasn't just referring to his performance at Spa. It was a summation of the entire season, an expression of frustration wrapped in calm. He seemed to be saying, "I gave it my all. But if this is the best you can do, maybe this isn't the home I once imagined." If Ferrari doesn't take this cue now, they're playing with fire. When Lewis Hamilton stops speaking, the world should start to worry, not because he's lost his voice, but because he may have lost hope. Not because he's lost his voice, but because he may have lost hope. Ferrari may celebrate Leclerc's results and feel that their ambitious project is slowly taking shape. However, that euphoria can be deceiving. If one driver smiles with hope while the other walks away in silence, that's not a sign of stability. It's a sign of an imbalance in the system, and in a project as large as Ferrari's. Two voices should carry equal weight. Today, Hamilton's voice no longer resonates as it should. Not because he's stopped speaking, but because no one is listening. His words are still there, but they're no longer taken as sincere. He doesn't complain on camera, explode on the radio, or blame anyone. But therein lies the warning that comes in the quietest and most piercing form, the silence of a world champion. It's a silence louder than any shout. When Hamilton chooses silence, it's not a sign of surrender. It's a sign that he's slipping away. Slowly but surely, if Ferrari doesn't quickly reevaluate their direction and continue to ignore the subtle signs emerging, they'll lose more than just momentum and their final standing in the standings. They risk losing something far more crucial, the trust of Lewis Hamilton. That trust can't be bought or restored with advanced technology, simulation data, or even the most revolutionary upgrades. Once lost, the impact could reverberate throughout the entire project. When a world champion starts to feel marginalized, not only are personal relationships shattered, but the collective spirit of the entire team is also affected. Will Ferrari rise and change their internal dynamics? Or is Hamilton preparing to close the door sooner than we think? Let us know your thoughts below.